one summer day in 2017, Renee and I were running as usual, about 3 miles. It was about 105 in the heat index for that day. And, I was a little low on energy. And Renee said, you need to go to the doctor. And I said, you know what, that's a good point. It's probably been over more than a year since I've been to the doctor. So I signed up for a physical and went in the following week. This was July of 2017. And everything checked out fine in terms of the physical. I remember sitting on the seat, the doctor leaving, saying, let me go check out your lung x-ray. But I wasn't concerned by it at all. I had no symptoms of lung cancer. When he came back to the room, he said, I got something I need to show you. Follow me. And I didn't think anything of it. I followed him to the x-ray machine, and I recall him pointing to my left upper lobe and saying, "What is that?" And he pointed to a black dot. And that's when, 2 hours later, I received a call from him after I received a CT. And that's when surreal became real. And he described that what I had was adenocarcinoma, all the appearances of adenocarcinoma, lung cancer. And my life would never be the same. It's a very devastating moment to hear those words, hang up that phone, and then face my new life. So I'm about 1.5 years after diagnosis. And statistics are ugly for lung cancer patients. But I'm different. I'm lucky that I'm different. I did a biomarker test, and it was discovered that I am ALK positive.
So we found out that Bill was ALK positive, and we didn't know anything about it, really. We knew that, we were told that if he had a certain type of mutation that, it was better, but we didn't know really how better. No one had really said his lifespan will increase substantially, right? And so, by my very nature, I guess, I'm kind of a researcher. I'm better at handling things if I know things. I don't like to be caught by surprise. So I was handling this a lot differently than Bill, which is ironic because now he's the researcher. But at the time, we were sitting on the couch, and Bill was just really numb to everything. And he didn't want to talk about the diagnosis. He didn't want to think about the diagnosis. He just wanted to stay away from the topic completely. And being the opposite, I just started researching, and I found a video. This video was from a patient.
Matt Hisney.
And Matt was simply telling his story, much like what Bill's doing now. And in this story, we found out that Matt had been living with ALK positive lung cancer for, at the time, do you remember how many years? Was it 6 or 7?
I think he was a survivor of 6 years.
Yeah. And that, I literally just...
It blew through the roof, the limitation of our mind, thinking that, yes, we had gone from months to years without positive, but no one put a number on anything. And here we are watching, he's a young guy too, him live 6 years so far, and by all means, healthy today.
So there's a poem that I love by Emily Dickinson, and the first line is, "Hope is a thing with feathers that's perched in the soul." And prior to that moment, there was no hope with feathers perched in anyone's soul in this house. And Matt brought that.
Yes, he did.
He brought that hope for us. We've had the opportunity now to tell his mom, Mandy, and Matt how instrumental his video was for our lives. We danced, we cried.
We cried, we high-fived, we danced. It was wonderful.
So it's that hope that is so important for patients when they find ALK positive. That led us then to the Facebook group and reading story after story after story, and then being able to ask any question, being newly diagnosed. And you know, it is about ALK positive for us, but it's really not about just ALK positive. It is about this concept that we live in a society now where we have patient-driven advocacy. You know, my point is that the hope is out there for patients and their families, and if there isn't, then find it. If there isn't a group, then create it. Just like
Marita Mathers Carroll, who did back in 2015. Tom Carroll's wife. She unfortunately passed, but she was the founder of ALK Positive. And all she wanted was to bring together people in her same situation with her specific cancer to address, information, to address empathy and support. And that was her key founding principles. And to this day, we have close to 2,000 members in ALK Positive, and we all follow those principles. So when we signed up, that's when it really came together for me to start understanding other people's stories. How did they not only emotionally address their cancer, but how did they get treatment? What were the pluses and minuses of their treatment? What were some of the symptoms they were having of the medications? And I just learned and gleaned as much as I could from that. And in many cases, I started sharing my end of the story and contributing to that community so that everyone else could learn about my situation. I just think it's, the key to me is about advocacy. You can advocate for the outfit, or you can advocate for yourself. And combined, I just think it's a more powerful impact for everyone with lung cancer. Well, being a part of ALK Positive has been a tremendous impact, filling us with hope and support. And one day, on the support side, someone, part of the management team, the outreach management team, sent a post asking if anyone wanted to join them for a conference call to talk about ways to raise funds and to accomplish certain things that the group needed. And we felt like we owed so much, and we had received so much that we wanted to participate. So we volunteered for the phone call, and it was a few of the outreach management members who just started really talking about the challenges with raising funds. They kind of reviewed some of the existing research projects that they had their eyes on, and we were intrigued by that. And I think that was the very beginning where we decided that we were going to take control of my cancer. And so it was really a self-advocacy move on our part, but it became much more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when something like this happens, most people, maybe, I don't know if we're most people, but it's just been my sense that people want something to do, right? To make things better, not only for themselves, but for the other people who are suffering with, this particular diagnosis. And it was really a way for us to deal with his diagnosis in a way that we were doing it together. And we've always been partners in, everything that we've done. We think alike, we act a lot alike.
Same humor.
It just made sense, since we do everything else together, to do this together. And so we've been a team on a team of other people wanting to make a difference.
we came up with bylaws, we came up with which structured our meetings, which structured our annual elections, which created positions. We flushed out some of the initiatives that we wanted to accomplish on the advocacy side, not only the fundraising and research side, but we wanted to accomplish some goals to build awareness, not only to increase the membership, but build awareness for things like biomarker testing. And we wanted to save lives. Essentially, everything we do at ALK Positive in the outreach group is to extend the lives of patients as well as improve the quality of life. And we will not take on any task unless it accomplishes that goal. So we participated in all of this evolution of creating this structure. And what that did was we also became more of a formal affiliate of a company called Longevity that is all out for awareness and patient-focused, patient-driven research. And they have enabled us to find key opinion leaders to take the initiatives of bringing potential projects from researchers and scientists together and allow us to dictate exactly what kind of research we feel that ALK positive patients need.
In essence, what we're doing as a group of patients and caregivers is taking control of the next step. Because what we do as human beings in today's world when it comes to a medical diagnosis is we sit and we wait for pharmaceutical companies to come up with the next best thing. And there's no next best thing. And we don't have time to wait.
We funded 3 research grants designed for ALK positive research, immunotherapy approached. You know, at the end of the day, lung cancer is the deadliest cancer and it's the least funded. And I think that goes back to more than 50 years where we all learned that the way to handle lung cancer is to prevent. Quite frankly, it's that smoking stigma. And we put all of the money and efforts into awareness programs, but not actual treatments to help solve this deadly disease. And so we find ourselves with Dr. Camage and some other ALK specialists calling this a revolution. We're living in a time when patients are living longer because we have these targetable treatments for these targetable mutations. And so living longer, having patient advocates around, having their say-so in research, offering feedback when it comes to medication side effects, and really adding a personal touch, a human life to behind the microscope, if you will, has really started catching steam and making a big difference. So we're all excited by all of those opportunities. We think that the stigma is turning the corner as we speak. And in ways that we see through social media, whether it's some of these alliance organizations that have really dropped mentioning that smoking is such tied to lung cancer. You know, the stigma too for a patient, and I'll share this, is I'm a non-smoker. And even if I were smoking, there's a stigma against me related to having lung cancer. And I'm trying to save my life. I'm trying to save my family's life in this whole ordeal. And, you know, it's a situation where we need to understand that no one is to blame. This is a disease. This is a human life. And we cannot hide behind lung cancer being a mistake. So we can't hide behind it only being prevention.
So Bill is 2 years in to his treatment. And, you know, 2 years ago, had someone said to us that we would be sitting here right now, we would be like, that is not possible. And clearly it is. When we started finding that some patients were living 11, 12 years, with the same diagnosis, our hearts were overjoyed and overwhelmed. And we don't know how long we have together. None of us knows. None of us knows, right? But my hope is that the newly diagnosed patient will clearly be able to see that hope lies in several places. Hope lies in the stories of other patients and what they are living through and successfully living through, and how they're taking charge of their own destiny in terms of their medical care, and how they are becoming informed, and how they inform others. And that really is the strength of the hope that ALK positive provides patients.
A lot of the fear, I believe, patients have, and let's include caretakers, their families, and friends, colleagues, is that it's the fear of the unknown. And that's almost worse than knowing. If you know something and you know it's real, you can deal with it a little bit easier, at least in my experience. So a lot of ALK positive support has given us that strength and knowledge to feel better, even though there's a lot still unknown. And that's power. I mean, we all want to be in a position of control, I think, when you're completely out of control. And it takes information to kind of get you there to feel better.
I think we all deal with a cancer diagnosis. Sometimes differently, sometimes the same, and however the patient and the caregiver and the family deals with it is okay. Bill and I deal with it very differently. We're a lot alike, but in this way we deal with it very differently. I choose to not think about the future. I'm not living blindly. I clearly know what we are up against. But if I allow myself to focus on that daily, or even allow it to enter my mind on a daily basis about what is coming for his future, I won't be able to live in the moment and appreciate the life that we've been given together right now. Bill handles it a little differently, but it works for him. How do you handle it?
Well, I will speak to the similarity there. I do not like to focus on what I'm missing. I continually, every day, focus on what I have. And you might read that in a book, or online. But I come by it naturally because it immediately gives me relief. It gives me the ability to face the day and to be grateful. I mean, a position of being grateful is far better than one where, quite frankly, you feel like you are being cheated or taken advantage of or at a loss. I mean, that is no way to live. And so, from a similar fashion from what Renee said, I don't focus on the very end. I have to assure myself every single day that I'm taking advantage of living. And in some ways, that feeling of living is taking on the normalcy of life. Being as a patient, I've picked up the cancer problems and challenges and gained that perspective. Because my treatments are so good, I've then set that down to a degree, and I picked up the normal problems everyday life brings. Bills, cutting the grass, handling things around work, and honestly, that I keep convincing myself that is a gift. I mean, I think someone who feels they're at the end of the line, all they want is their old life back. So I hold on to my old life as long as I possibly can.
For the record, I cut the grass.
It's true.